How's it going? The other week I started making some hay bale gardens out in the front. Traditionally they're straw bale gardens, but I had some cheap lucerne. Lucerne or alfalfa is nitrogen rich and I think it's going to make up some great garden beds. The way you pretty much will start off these bale gardens is you feed them up with some nitrogen rich fertilizers just to get the bales cooking, get some bacterial action in there. They heat up nicely, and once the heat starts to drop down a bit, then you're fine to plant them out. To kickstart ours off, I use some Dynamic Lifter, which is a chicken-based fertilizer we get over here in Australia. There's other brands as well. Rooster Booster's another one. I've also used some CBM fertilizer and some, which is a cow manure, chicken manure, and rock dust, mineral rock dust organic fertilizer, and also some semi-composted horse manure. That's to add in some bacteria, fungus, and I was pleasantly surprised this morning to find some composting worms in there as well. So I noticed on the weekend that ours is pretty much all cooled down, so I'm going to plant it out today with some garlic, some tomatoes, and also some Peter peppers that I've got some seeds from as well. So we're going to pop all those guys in there and we'll see how they'll go over the coming months. So I'll take a bit of a walk out the front now and I'll show you the bales, how I prepared them, and we'll get into planting them after that. As you can see, I've got some cardboard on the ground there. It's 2 layers deep. It's just old boxes we've had laying around. That's going to hopefully stop the weeds coming up and growing through the straw bale itself. Just thought I'd show you one of the reasons why I've rolled these bales onto their sides. If you roll it over like this, you'll see there's a lot of end grain here, and it comes apart quite easily. So my idea is the fertilizer is going to fall down through into these gaps a lot better, and will go into the center of the bale and aid in the decomposition of the organic matter. When it's on its side here, it's a little bit harder for it to get down through. It's a little bit of a tighter weave. I'm also going to tie the bales together to try and keep them all in one big unit, just in case they decide to fall apart a bit. So I'll just be wrapping one length around the whole lot, I think. Whenever you're working or buying hay or straw, it really pays to collect this stuff. It comes in handy all around the yard. Nearly as good as zip ties, some would say. Just going to add about a litre or so of this to each of these bales. Should be more than enough, I think, to get them cooking. A bit down in between. Now that those amendments are on, I might just give it a quick water in before I put the horse manure on top. We've also got some pretty nice big compost worms in this horse manure, so they'll aid in the breaking down of all this hay and all the other bits and pieces. So I think that's a nice big generous helping of horse manure and worms, so that should help break down the hay nicely. I'm just going to cover it with some shade cloth, and I'm just going to use some tent pegs just through the shade cloth and into the hay, just to hold it all in place so it doesn't go flying anywhere. There we go. So I'm just giving this one a bit of a fork over today. I'm not going to add any more water to it because we've had quite a bit of rain over the last few days, so more than enough to keep these bales moist. I'm more than happy with how it's going, so I suppose all I can do is just leave it at this. We'll come back in a couple of days and we'll see how she's going. So here's the garden out the front. It's pretty much all ready to plant out now. The manure's actually broken down a little bit further. It's a little bit crumbly now, so more than happy with that. In this bed I will be putting 2 Tigerella and 2 different Peter peppers. We have an orange Peter pepper and a yellow Peter pepper. I also have the rest of my vernalized garlic from the fridge. To help these guys along, I've got a whole heap of worm cast here. So it's still got worms in it, and there'll probably be some cocoons in there as well. So this is nice, light, beautiful worm castings. That'll give the plants a great kickstart, I think. Just to give you a bit of a look at the garlic I got, that's pretty much all the smallest I'd want to go, a clove that size there. This one is far too small, even though he's shot and he's got a little root or 2 down the bottom. Definitely too small, I think. So what I'll be doing is planting out 2 rows of 4. So we'll start over here near the edge. And just in those hollows, I'll be doing a scoop like that of the worm cast. Now it's as easy as planting your garlic, the flat base or the rough end down and the point up. So I'm just planting that straight into the worm cast, probably about half an inch, 12 millimeters down. It's as easy as that for the garlic. Level out the manure over the top of them a bit. And there you go. So these chilies now will be planted along here. It'll probably actually be around about the join of the hay bales. So all I'm going to do is just move them aside for 1 minute. Move some of this horse manure. Oh, look at the worms. This is just straight from the horse manure. It's awesome. So I move them to one side. Make a bit of a hole. Same over here. I could probably plant this out a lot more intensively, but just for the time being, I'm pretty happy with what's going in here. If I have any plant deaths, well then I'll consider planting it out with a few bits and pieces around the sides. So in each one of these, I'm doing a whole big scoop with the worm cast. There's a worm in this one. Worms! Maybe a little bit more in this one. And I'll just try and gently part that aside. And I'm just going to pop these guys straight in. I'm actually going to bury them a little bit deeper because they did get a little bit leggy as they took a little bit longer than normal to plant out. And I might actually just cover around them with castings rather than manure. So that there is the yellow one, and I have 3 of the orange one here, but I think I'll plant the 3 and then I'll come back and thin it back to 1 in the future. So just plant them down a little bit lower as well, nip off the lower leaves. And the same again. Fill them in with worm cast rather than the manure. Away we go. Now for these tomatoes, I'm pretty much going to do it the same way. Just try and make a bit of a hole. Doing these guys in the middle of the bale though. And in goes Christie's and Paul's Tigerella tomatoes. So try and get them down nice and deep. More castings. That's pretty much all it. What I will do is just pinch off these lower branches though. I don't think they really need them at the moment. What I'm going to do before I mulch it with the sugarcane mulch is just give them a good watering in. This is actually water I've taken from the radial flow filter from the aquaponics setup when I cleaned it out the other day, so this is going to be nice and rich. These guys are going to love this. Now to just try and keep the moisture in that manure layer here, I'm just going to put out some of the sugarcane mulch we've got left over. You could use the same straw you made the bales out of. Like I said, I've just got this stuff out the back. Got a little bit wet in the rain and I just want to use it up, so there you go. So there you go, there's my take on straw bale gardening. There are other methods you can actually use to make a straw bale garden. I've seen people make a perimeter out of the straw bales, hay bales, and then load their compost and growing medium in the middle and then growing in there. The bales on the outside break down, turn into mulch compost, and they toss that on top for the next year's crop and put more bales around the outside. Tim and Christine out at Amaroo Homestead have got a nice little setup like that out the back of their place. I think that's on one of their walk around clips. I just think it's a great idea just for manufacturing, for us, for manufacturing next season's mulch compost. I think it's going to be fantastic. If you've had any experience at all and you could see ways I could improve this, feel free to drop a comment in the comment section below. In fact, drop any comments, questions, suggestions down there and I'll get back to you. I'm really interested to see how this goes. I will do updates as I do the walk around clips. You'll get to have a look at them. So I'll stop rabbiting on now and I'll let you all go. Have a great one and take it easy. Catch ya.